Well, greetings once again, poetry lovers, and as a double bonus, art lovers. Today we are going to have a little chat about John Keats' poem, Ode on a Grecian Urn. And so here up on the screen is a picture of an urn. So an urn is a vessel, quite often has a top on it. You may be familiar with the term as it is used relative to the cremation of a dead person, to put it bluntly. And so one's cremated remains might be put in an urn, and then put in a mausoleum somewhere, or I don't know. I guess I've heard of people that have them, have the urn displayed in their house somewhere. Although that seems really crazy to me, but okay, that's all right. All right. So what I wanted to show you about this urn is the urn that that Keats describes in his ode is not one that there is. He wasn't looking at an actual urn. The critics posit that he is using his imagination in creating this urn, and in a lot of ways that's what the poem is about. It has to do with a human imagination and the delta between what we imagine then and what we imagine and what's real. Okay, what is and where's the line between those things. So here I wanted to just show you this this urn because it's got these pictorial representations. These are in two dimensions. I had an example of an urn that had sort of like a relief where the figures are raised, etched out of marble and so forth, and then so that they're a little more three-dimensional. But I just want to show you the sort of thing that that Keats is envisioning in writing the poem. All right, now something else I wanted to tell you about is this. This poem, in addition to being an ode, and it is an irregular ode, okay, it is also an example of an ekphrastic poem. So I'm going to get rid of my happy little show and tell item, and I'm going to write this for you. It's ekphrastic. It's an ekphrastic poem. Let's see if I can get the old autofocus to work there a little bit better. Ooh, good heavens, that can't be right. Let's try this again. Really? That's all I got? Oh, there we go. Okay, so ekphrastic. In classical rhetorical training for young men such as yourselves, although this would have started much earlier, ekphrasis is a rhetorical exercise in which the student would describe generally a work of art. It was used to help develop the student's ability for description, imagery creation, and this sort of thing. And so this, because it's Keats describing a work of art, an urn, that this comes into the category of an ekphrastic poem. Okay, so let's take a look at the poem itself, and let's read our way through it. Oh, an ode, and it's an irregular ode. An irregular ode. Ode on a Grecian Urn. Thou still unravished bride of quietness, thou foster child of silence and slow time, sylvan historian who canst thus express a flowery tale more sweetly than our rhyme. What leaf-fringed legend haunts about thy shape, of deities or mortals, or of both, in Tempe or the dales of Arcady? What men or gods are these? What maidens loth? What mad pursuit? What struggle to escape? What pipes and timbrels? What wild ecstasy? Heard melodies are sweet, but those unheard are sweeter. Therefore ye soft pipes play on, not to the sensual ear, but more endeared, pipe to the spirit ditties of no tone. Fair youth, beneath the trees, thou canst not leave thy song, nor ever can those trees be bare. Bold lover, never, Never canst thou kiss the winning near the goal. Yet do not grieve, she cannot fade, though thou hast not thy bliss. For ever wilt thou love, and she be fair. Ah, happy, happy boughs that cannot shed your leaves, nor ever bid the spring adieu. And happy melodists, unwearied, for ever piping songs forever new. More happy love, more happy, happy love, forever warm and still to be enjoyed, forever panting and forever young. All breathing human passion far above, that leaves a heart high sorrowful and cloyed, a burning forehead and a parching tongue. Who are these coming to the sacrifice? To what green altar, O mysterious priest, leadst thou that heifer, lowing at the skies, and all her silken flanks with garlands dressed? What little town by river or seashore, or mountain built with peaceful citadel, is emptied of this folk, this pious morn? O little town, thy streets for evermore will silent be, and not a soul to tell why thou art desolate can ne'er return. O Attic shape, fair attitude, with breed of marble men and maidens overwrought, with forest branches and the trodden weed, thou silent form dost tease us out of thought as doth eternity. Cold pastoral, when old age shall this generation waste, thou shalt remain, in midst of other woe than ours, a friend to man, to whom thou sayest, beauty is truth, truth beauty. That is all ye know on earth, and all ye need to know. Okay, so I have I've gone through and marked the rhyme scheme. Generally, what we've got here is all right. So this is a 10-line stanza. And I don't think we covered the name for this because we see it so seldom, but it's called a dizain. And so we spell that D-I-Z-A-I-N. So like cinquain, it derives from the French. So dizain. Don't be surprised if we have a question on this guy. Question on this guy. Irregular ode. Right? Ask you that one. Okay. Big Q around it. Questions on all those. So be prepared. Do we need to put the LED on? That's probably a little bit better. Yeah. Okay. All right. So what I want to focus on more, there's a rhythmic element to the poem, but it's not quite as important, in my opinion anyway, as the imagery. After all, we're talking about the description of an object, and even though it's three-dimensional, he deals with it in he being Keats, and through his speaker, deals with this as a sort of two-dimensional opportunity as the images are going around the urn. And that's what I wanted to show you about that urn initially, is the idea that these images seem to be in movement, and yet this is exactly what it is that Keats is writing about. And if you see from your notes, this is one of Keats's most famous explorations of the contrarieties of life, and the idea that on one hand you've got these figures, okay. The man and the woman, the young man chasing the young woman. You've got the trees, you've got the priest, and all the people that are going to a religious ceremony, some sort of ritual, and so they seem to be moving. We're supposed to imagine that they are moving, and yet in reality they are still. And so there's that sort of paradox that runs through the entirety of the poem. As you might suspect, because he's talking about contrary elements, think of all the poetic devices that Keats has at his disposal to convey that sense of opposites. Okay, so paradox, oxymoron, any of these sorts of things. Irony, there's going to be a good deal also of figures of repetition. So all the figures of repetition you've been taught this year and recently, everything from alliteration, consonants, assonants. We've got elements of epizeuxis. I'm going to teach you a new one. It's it's kin to epizeuxis. It's called epimony, which is the repetition of short phrases in close proximity. And all these elements of repetition serve to add a sense of importance, emphasis, vehemence, depending on where we are on the poem. Okay, so let's talk about the fact that here at the beginning, and this is a controversial poem because there are so many ways to read it. For example, in an early edition, I think there's a note here that talks to you about this, there was a comma here after the still, which makes the still then a descriptor, meaning at a standstill, okay, as in not moving. But if you read it this way, thou still unravished bride of quietness, and here the speaker is addressing the urn itself, okay. So in one way, it's yet unravished bride of quietness, and also unmoving. Okay, I like that better because again, you have the two senses of the word. It's the double entendre in a way that again I think adds to the beauty and the power of the poem. Okay, so here he is. He's addressing the urn itself. He creates in this opening stanza, in addressing the urn, a sense of tension because he jumps right in. Okay, and this is of course an example of what? As a figurative device, it's apostrophe. Probably going to ask you a question about that. Apostrophe, since he is addressing someone or something that cannot respond, and clearly the urn cannot respond, although in a lot of ways I think he wishes that it could. Okay, so apostrophe here. Thou still unravished bride of quietness, thou foster child of silence and slow time, Sylvan historian. Okay, so Sylvan here, of course, is referencing, it evokes the woodland. Okay, notice all the sibilants and the sound devices that make an appearance in this opening that's so evocative of all the senses. Okay. Who canst thus express a flowery tale more sweetly than our rhyme. So meaning that in a way that the pictorial representation of what's happening all around the urn, he's suggesting that these pictures do a better job of telling an evocative tale than even a poet can. And I think part of this is that the pictorial allows for, maybe even demands, the imagination of the viewer to engage in ways that words cannot. I don't have to have a huge lexicon to be able to fully understand and grasp the words that are on a page of poetry. I can look at a visual image and I can interpret it for myself in ways that again I don't have to be literate in order to do. Okay. All right, let's see. So one thing I want you to notice is, and I didn't count the number of them, and I probably should have before I did this video, but the number of rhetorical, what we would consider to be rhetorical questions, since he's asking the urn that can't respond, right? So the sense of tension that he creates in the opening stanza, I mean, we're really not sure what it is that he's addressing here, because even this is it is ode on a Grecian urn. I mean, because he's talking to the urn. I mean, why doesn't he make it ode to a Grecian urn? But that's not it. Okay, it's ode on a Grecian urn because what he's doing is the poem is giving us what amounts to an explication of what it is that the urn has to say, and of course this interpretation is going to come fully to bear in the last stanza. All right, so if we're going to go ahead and make some marks, and you know what, I'm just going to trade this guy out. You know what can I tell you? I've already done all the doggone work. Might as well share it with you. Okay, so I've done some of the scansion, and I think what I'm probably going to do is go ahead and drop this down so that you can see it perhaps a little bit better. Let's see if I can get this thing to focus a little better. There we go. Maybe a little bit better. All right. Thou still unravished bride of quietness. So we end with a dactyl. There's an interesting rhythm to the poem. There's a good deal of rising meter, an awful lot of spondies as well, because the speaker is super enthusiastic with respect to what it is that he's describing. Okay. I was going to be doing this. This annotation was going to be sponsored by Pakistan's first and only pencil manufacturer, Chassons, but I got to go with the Blackwing Palomino, because it's going to make a darker mark that you're going to be able to see. So Blackwing 602. Okay. Thou foster child of silence and slow time, Sylvan historian, who canst thus express a flowery tale more sweetly than our rhyme. Boom, boom, boom. He's amazed by this. Okay? What leaf-fringed legend haunts about thy shape of deities? That's a dactyl there, deities, or mortals, or of both, in Tempe or the dales of Arcady. And again, we have the ending here with the dactyl. Okay, so Arcady then, the Greek symbol of the pastoral ideal. Notice just how much visual imagery is here for us in that opening stanza. So let me see if I can go ahead and I'm gonna have to back out on this one a little bit. Okay. All right, but if you follow along with me in terms of what I'm saying and mark your books accordingly, then we should be all set there. Okay. All right. What men or gods are these? What maidens loth? What mad pursuit? What struggles to escape? What pipes and timbrels? What wild ecstasy? And so now he's going to unpack it sort of image by image along around the urn. Okay, so like I said, the rhetorical questions in series add to the suspense that's being created by an opening in which we're just not sure exactly what it is that he's addressing. Okay, all right, so heard melodies are sweet, but those unheard are sweeter. All right, so a good deal of auditory imagery that you're going to have in this second stanza as he's talking about things that one can hear. So here, how is it possible that unheard melodies are sweeter? Because the imagination makes it so. And this is what's driving the poem, is the imagination of the speaker and, by extension, us as readers. And in a way, because of the way ekphrasis works, we're also audience from a visual standpoint as he seeks to describe for us something that he sees in his mind's eye so that we can see it in our mind's eyes also. Okay? Therefore, ye soft pipes play on, not to the sensual ear, as in the ear that we can hear, okay, but that of the spirit or the imagination. But more endeared, pipe to the spirit ditties of no tone. So you can hear the paradox in that. Pipe to the spirit ditties of no tone. So we've talked about the fact that, I know we've talked about in class the idea that, say, we'll just go with women, and that there's a school of thought that says, well, I'd prefer that at the beach or wherever at at a fancy dinner on the red carpet at an award show. Do I really need to see all that skin? Isn't the imagination sort of a more fertile ground than once everything's sort of already shown for you? Then there's no mystery left. And this is part of what he's getting at. I was giving you there a narrow example, but in a sense, this is what Keats is aiming at in the poem. Okay, fair youth beneath the trees, thou canst not have thy song, nor ever can those trees be bare. Right, because they've got leaves on them, and because they are pictures of leafy trees. No, in that world, the two-dimensional world of the urn, they'll never be bare. All right, here's our example of epizeuxis. I'm going to see a question there. Epizeuxis. Bold lover, never, never canst thou kiss, though winning near the goal. So the emphasis is on the impossible, the impossibility of his yearning, his striving. Yet do not grieve. So he's saying that there's possible redemption here. She cannot fade, though thou hast not thy bliss, as in your ability to reach her physically. Forever wilt thou love, and she be fair. Can you see how he's moving back and forth across the two worlds, the world of imagination and what's suggested by the thing that he is supposedly looking at? Okay, really nice internal slant rhyme here with though and thou. Don't be shocked if I ask you a question about that guy either. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and stop this vid, and then I'll start with the second one, and we'll start on stanza 3.